whew, hydrate. It's finally hot, so we gotta hydrate. Hi, hello, how are you? I hope you're doing fantastic. I really do, and in fact, that's how we start a conversation. I see no other way to start a video without, wondering how you're doing, Maybe something like, oh, hi, how you doing? I wanted to talk to you about something. Hi, how are you? Okay. All right. In today's video, I will be sharing with you all the books that I read in the month of May. And I didn't obviously read all the books on my TBR, but was it a good month? Was it a great month? Did I get a 5-star read? Let's find out. Jambo, Karibu, welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. Okay, so these are all the books that I'll be talking to you about. And also guys, I just finished filming my video talking about The Slave Ship by Marcus Whitaker. It's pretty long, but you guys, it's really important that you give it a watch. I stay away from making that kind of lengthy video because I know our attention span is in there. But trust me when I say just watch it, especially if you're not going to read the book. At least I went through it, so I want you to at least watch it, right? So it's going to go like this. The people who went through the slave ship, whatever's happening in that book, didn't have the luxury of saying that, you know what, fuck this, it's too much, I can't handle it. No, they went through it and they had no choice. Us who are reading these stories have a choice, right? When we can no longer take it, we are able to close the book and be like, this is too much, let me take a breather, let me just walk away from this, let me regroup, we could do that. So that's fine. So for those who can't even pick up the book, or like, no, I know myself, I can't read that, it's gonna be too much. Okay, I respect that. So at least give my video a watch. Since you're never gonna pick it up, at least watch me tell you what I went through reading that book, right? Anyways, you guys, so let's get into this. Y'all. Let's get into this. So I read a total of, I want to say 6 books, but I'm gonna add the 7th one as being part of May, even though I literally finished it in June, like June 5th. And I was like, maybe I should just keep it for like the June wrap up, but I'm like, nah. It was part of the May TBR and I did finish it before like June 5th, like right at the beginning, and I had already started in May, so it's gonna be part of the May wrap up. So obviously these are the physical books that I read, and I'll be talking to you about the 2 books that I listened to. They're actually both new releases. So as I said, I spoke more than an hour sharing this book, The Slave Ship. So I'm thinking the wrap up may be posted before this video. I do want this video where I talk about this book to be posted prior, but so yeah. So anyways, I already talked about this book, and it is what it is. Slave Ship. As I said in my video, I was beside myself. I went through a lot of emotions reading this book. I cried, I was angry, I went through all kinds of emotions. I even said that even some emotions that don't exist, I went through them, because that's the kind of book this is. I'm not gonna say it's for everyone. I'm sorry. Everyone needs to read this book. Africans, African Americans, Black British, white, Asians, Indians, everyone needs to read this book. Arabs, simply because there seems to be a consensus among other races when it comes to us that they can just treat us anyhow. They could just have all kinds of narratives when it comes to Africans or African Americans or the Black race in general, and no one knows nothing until you read this book. Then if it doesn't change your perspective, then yeah, but at least you would have read this book, and then maybe some things may make sense. Not make sense as in, oh, now I see, but it may make sense in terms of what's going on today, where it stems from, where it comes from. Okay, so yes, everyone needs to read this book, and I would want this book to be part of the school curriculum in every schools in Africa, one, And then 2, yeah, the United States. 3, everywhere. This Marcus Whitaker, who's a white dude, he's doing us a big favor, you know, by writing all of this. So I'm not gonna rate this book. This is not a rateable book, but trust me, no, yeah, no. Anyways, and then I read this book. So the month of May was really heavy because I started reading The Slave Ship, and then I went straight into this book. Now this book, oh my god. If you guys remember the prompts at when I was choosing my books for June TBR, said to pick like a Canadian. It also said, you know, a story that was taking place on a ship. If I had known, the beginning of these pages were literally it was all on a ship, and it was by Canadian authors. So I just discovered that Evan Winter is Canadian, you know, and it's so weird because I was like, oh, I'm gonna read this non-fictional book that's about Canada by a Canadian author, but I had like 3 prompts in one. Like, takes place on a ship. This was at the beginning, like a big part of it, and then by Canadian author, like in here too. So anyways, I just wanted to tell you guys that had I known when I was picking the G, I would have been like, yeah, this is like 2 in 1, you know. But anyways, this book is fantastic. We follow Tao, and Tao is this young man in what city? Let me get my notes, y'all. Let me get my notes. Yes, let's see. Hedeni is, they live in Daba. Tao and Jabari. So Tao is the main character in the book. The chosen military made up of the gifted, the Inlovu, and Ihashe. So there you have it. Tao is the lesser and a commoner, right? So the gifted are like, you know, it's this group of, they're just gifted. They have these different powers. And what happens is that I think is it the Inlovu and gifted, when they get together, the gifted and the Inlovu can just kind of have this superpower when they're fighting, you know. Jabari is Nkosi, he's a noble. And what was really striking about this book was that there were certain words that I recognized, even though it's like, I think he was using, I don't want to say Zulu, but a particular language in South Africa, but it also really sounded almost Swahili to me, you know. Jayed, he's also a Ihashe warrior, so he's like the villain in this story. Jayed, the skirmish. So the skirmish are these tournaments that happen prior to, I guess, the big fights, right? So what happens is that something happens in the village of Tao. Something happens to his father. You know how, you know, these fantasy books start, and then now he's like, he's strong, but not as strong. But when that thing happened to, you know, to his father, he decides that he's gonna go train to take his revenge on this noble people, right? So now he's gonna be part of these skirmishes, and like I said, from the beginning to the end of this book, chapter after chapter, it was battle after battle after battle after battle. Okay, but it was great. I mean, it was fantastic. Literally fantasy, it was fantastic. I loved it. And this is coming from somebody who is not a soldier, would literally never die for anyone. I've told you that, right? But I love the epic fights. These fights were epic. Like, I would see Tao in my imagination, like just like certain moves that he was described. I was like, ooh, I saw that. I was like, oh damn. I was happy. Like I was happy after reading. I was happy. So yeah, let me see. Tao's ultimate goal is to fight Kelon Okar. Kelon and the Ndlovu versus Tao and the Ihashe. That's what I put. I like Tao, but at times I found him way too impulsive. So yeah, basically, whenever he would get into these skirmishes, like he would fight. Like he was day after day. Like this guy would fight from dawn till like night. Like literally every day, so that when him and his colleagues would get into the ring basically to fight, his friends started getting scared because he was brutal. I think he was so driven by vengeance, by like that, it almost I felt like it almost consumed them, and that was just the only part that I was like, okay, Tao, like, come on, you know. There's also a part where what's the girl? Yeah, I said too thirsty for blood and therefore prone to taking hasty decisions. That's what I wrote. I can see how these impulsive reactions could be fatal in other circumstances. And then I wrote all these words to describe him: impetuous, uninhibited, rash, devil may care, and reckless. That is Tao for you. But like, I know the reason why the author wrote the character of Tao that way. It's probably because in the second book, hopefully there's a way where he redeems himself in terms of character. So yeah, like the world building was fantastic. I mean, there's the dragons, I thought would be like really a big part of the story, but no, there is mention of dragons, but not as like you know, fourth wing, not at all. But he has a girl there, like this girlfriend. The reason why I want to mention her is because she kind of teaches her how to go back, like how to go underworld, like in the underworld. And that's how come when I tell you that when Tao fights with his colleague, it becomes almost impossible for his colleagues to fight him or even beat him or any, because like he now kind of gets a little bit of, every time he goes underworld, in the underworld, he sort of gains a little bit more power, just as much more energy of him is also sucked in when he goes there. But it's a whole thing, y'all, like it's a whole thing. I do have a little a few things that I tabbed, so let me see what were striking. Why did I tab this? Your life? Jade asked, causing Tao to stop. That's the price. Life is nothing more than moments in life. To achieve greatness, you have to give up those moments. You have to give your life to your goal. Oh, ain't that right? Okay, next, let's see, what's this about? I've told many of you the cause for greatness is time. The rest of my scale puts in time. They put in work. You put in more and you work harder. You will be better. It is the natural order and the secret path to brilliance. Put in more, get out more. I like that because I think these can be applied into everyday work, right? Here I said, know this as well, Jade continued. Improvement can only come through intentioned effort. Every day must be hard for you. The days without difficulty are the days you do not improve. The days you do not improve are the days the men behind you close the distance. It's then you give your enemies hope. Hope that when they meet you in battle, they have done enough to finish you. Woo! Now I love that. If this cannot be applied in everyday life, I don't know what is, but I love that quote. I love these quotes. To defend against failure every day must strengthen you, for it's in the crucible of hard days that potential becomes power. Woo! Again. Now that quote, yo, this guy is wise. I mean, he's wise. I mean, I followed briefly his interview, like what inspired him to write his book. He does say that, you know, he loves fantasy, but there was not enough representation of black people in fantasy. So he decided to do what? Yo, when you're looking for black fantasy, this is the top. Like, this is your black fantasy with black characters written by black person for black people and everybody else. Anyways, you guys, yeah. So 5-star. What else can I say? Oh yeah, the fight between Kellen and Tao was nothing short of epic, bloody, and truly murderous. Those are my thoughts. So like I said, y'all can see that I'm smiling because I fully believed everyone who said that this book will not disappoint. Like I said, the only thing that may be too much are the battles, because it's chapter after chapter till the end, absolutely till the end. But like I said, it will suck you in a good way. So thanks to chocolate flavored pages, she had recommended this. I was like, okay, yes. Next, I read The House of Deep Water. I need my notes for this story. Riverbend, Michigan, Linda Williams. Who's the girl I want to talk about? Beth DeWitt. Beth. Is it Beth? It's Beth. This story is centered around Linda, Paula, and Beth, and somehow they're all related. Beth, the reason why I want to talk about her is because she's half black. Her dad is white, her mom is black. Something tragic happened to her when she was a child, and it seems like the father sort of knew and didn't do nothing about it. So it's in a small village where there's obviously racism still happening. Linda is also this other girl who's going through a divorce, and she goes back to that village. Basically, all of them had decided to move, go their separate ways, and something brings them back to this little town, right? And Linda is somehow related to Beth, and Paula is the mother of Linda, and Linda is going out with the father of Beth, who's very older, obviously. So that's how the relation, like Linda and Paula are white. As I said, she's the only black girl. She married a white man who's half brother of Linda. Like I said, it's a whole family thing with the branches. Anyways, so she has two, I guess in the book, black daughters, but I know one drop makes you black, but like you're half white, you marry a white person, your children are 75% white. So that's the dominant trait. So your kids are white. But hey, I digress. I know when it comes to United States, one drop blood, black, you're black. You're black. Okay. I don't know how I feel, but I think it's a 2.75 out of 5. There were things that Beth went through that, like I said, was really bad, like tragic, like, but it was also the fact that she grew up in a town where she was almost the only black girl. She went through racism. She also went through like her view of herself, you know what I mean? Like she talks about all these daily things such as straightening her hair and how her hair will puff up, and then once she leaves and she marries her white husband, they do divorce, and it's just her attitude, and it's, I guess the author wrote her that way, but I felt like it does legitimize this whole black woman, angry black woman, like, because she had an attitude with everyone, even her children. But then, like I said, there's a reason. Once you know what happened to her when she was a child, maybe explains why she's the way she is. No one else knows. And the story of Linda is pregnant with Beth's father, which again is something. And she's also going through shit because she was abandoned by her mom, who's Paula. And Paula's going out with this other guy who's also young. She also has issues. They all have issues, y'all. So like I said, I listened to this on audio. So I'm not sure if the audio made it less enjoyable. If I would have read the book, would it have been? Because the premise of the story sounded appealing to me. But once I got to the story, I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's a story. So it's a 2.75 out of 5 for me. I'm not sure if you read this book. What did you think? Am I too off in my rating of the book or in my enjoyment of the book? Did I miss something, or should I have read it? But it's 2.75 out of 5, and maybe you will enjoy it. Try it if you have time, right? So the book that I said I finished in June is this book. It's pretty thin, and this is a story of an Indian girl living in, is it Tennessee? Lakota Indian, orphan child, the Lakota Indian, and she is living in, I think it's Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee. And it's during the Civil War. Tennessee is a state still riven by the bitter legacy of the Civil War. So a little bit after Civil War. So the reason I want to talk to you guys about this book, simply because, real quick, it's about this little Indian girl. She lives in a house with two white male who are actually in love with each other during that time. Yes, I'm not kidding. Okay, but at the same time, there's also this other black woman who lives in that same household who has a brother, and they're this big family, but they're not really. Yeah, I guess they're this big happy family. So I want to read a little bit of what happened to this girl to you guys and how they were described. Indians were described then. I was just the cinders of an Indian fire in the eyes of the town. Indians in bulk were long gone from Henry County, Cherokee, Chickasaw. Folks didn't like to see an ember drifting back. They had done their dumbness, I guess, so they both gave me the wound and healed it, which is a hard fact in its way. So what she says here is that these people, the people that she lives with, participated in the killing of Indians, and at the same time took her in as an orphan and I guess raised her. You only had to look like you'd done something wrong in America and they would hang you if you were poor. And this is Indian. Okay, before I tell you exactly what the story is about, I was less than the least of them. I was less than the whores in the whorehouse, except maybe for them I was just a whore in the making. I was less than the black flies that followed everyone in the summer, less than the old shit thrown to the backs of the houses. Yep. Here, white men in the main just see slaves and Indians. They don't see the single souls, how all are emperors to those that love them. We were nothing, so to kill us all was just the killing of nothing. So it meant nothing. It wasn't a crime to kill an Indian because an Indian wasn't anything in particular. Yep. So like I said, it's this little Indian girl. She's growing up in that household. Something tragic does happen. That's basically where the story begins to take form, where the story takes off. Through that tragedy that this little girl is gonna go through, you're now gonna see not only the injustice of white system there against Indians and black people back then, and just everything that unfolds after, based centered around Indians and white people and the justice system and how it didn't prevail when it comes to Indians in that time. So it's a good story. It's a 3 out of 5. I found that the language, the English, was a bit different for me. There were times where the syntaxes of the sentences were a bit different, but I think maybe it was made that way because I guess you are listening from the point of view of the Indian girl, and Indian girl weren't going to school, right? It's really bad because at some point she just, it's really at the beginning where she talks about how they killed my mom, they killed my sister. Ugh. And sometimes we forget. I don't know if we forget, but like I've always made a conscious effort to want to learn about Indians, the ones that live in Canada and the ones that live elsewhere, and where I can't imagine to have my country taken from me. I mean, this is sometimes my fear for Congo. Like, that's what's happening in the eastern part of Congo, you know? People are talking about separating Congo and basically it being part of Rwanda. For what? Do you understand how human beings are just... Yo, the month of May made me feel like I hated human beings. Hate it. Black, white, everywhere. I just hate it. Hate it. Hate it. Anyways, I think you should read if you want to read more stories about Indians. And one thing again, y'all know that I want to read books by black authors and especially African authors, but I've told you how sometimes a lot of these stories that I want to read are written by white authors. So now I'm not sure if he has Indian in him, but like these are like 2 stories that are black people, indigenous people, and written by white people. But like I said, in my quest to read black stories, I find myself reading almost more white authors writing about our black stories. I don't know, y'all. Go figure. I want to talk to you about the 2 books that I listened to. Where's my notebook? Okay. 6 Days in Bombay, written by Alka Joshi. Alka Joshi wrote The Henna Artist, The Secret Keeper of Jaipur, and The Perfumist, right? This book. And these are the 2 books. And it's because of The Henna Artist that I fell in love with Alka Joshi. And I want to say that for some of us, when our favorite authors come up with books, new books, sometimes there might not be the greatest work in their catalog, but because we love their writings, we love them, we appreciate them, we're gonna enjoy their work, right? And I feel like that was the case with this particular book, 6 Days in Bombay. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't, the henna artist, but it's essentially about this young girl, Sana. Sana is she's in India. Obviously, she's a nurse working at a hospital, and her life is fine, typical. Nothing's extravagant. But one day, there's this woman who is brought to the hospital, and I think she loses a baby. She miscarries, and her health becomes precarious. But the only thing is that she asked to leave because she was supposed to get better. But then she does leave. The woman in question who's in the hospital, she leaves, but apparently she is brought back to the hospital, urgently, and then she dies. But before she dies, she tells Sana that I have these 6 paintings that I want you to go and give it back to these people. And these people live in Paris. I think they live in Paris. And this is during World War II. I think it's at the dawn of World War II. I think that's what I wrote. Yeah, she meets at the dawn of World War II. So what makes this book that great is that India is colonized by the English people. World War II is happening. She's half English and she's half Indian. And there is things boiling between English and Indians, and she's like in the midst of it because she's half this and half that. And also her dad abandoned her and her mom and her younger brother, who did die at a younger age, when she was really young. So she does have that kind of bitterness towards her English father. So basically she will go on this journey to go and give those paintings to who she's supposed to give, and you follow her family traveling, because her mom was also telling her that you need to travel, you need to go, and you can't continue to be bitter against your dad and all that stuff. And while she's on that journey, she will discover Paris and different worlds, different people, and things like that. So it was okay. It was a listen because it's a new release. It was part of my new releases, so it's a 3 out of 5 because, like I said, I like Alka Joshi's work, and it was a good book. It was a new release. It was a good book. So I read another new release in May, and it was The Stolen Queen by I think Davis. The Stolen Queen by Fiona Davis. It's historical, and it's about Charlotte and Annie. Charlotte works in the Egyptology department. And then she decides to go to Egypt in order to solve the mystery of the stolen queen. Basically, the whole story evolves around the stolen queen, which is the title of the book, right? So y'all know how Europeans love to take things from the African continent, especially arts and stuff like that, because we can't preserve our own arts. So they have to save not only us, they also have to save our arts by appropriating them. And then and there's a conversation in the book about that. I was listening to the audio because I didn't buy the book, and I don't think I want to own the book. So yeah, that's her journey. And then she will meet Annie. Annie is this young girl who's 19 years old, because it's dual time, by the way. The story is dual time. It was also part of my new release. If you watch my new release, I read you the synopsis of the book. So it's dual time. And Annie lives in present time with her mom, and you see that her mom is just not momming. She's almost acting like the daughter, and Annie is the mom. She won't have a job. She can't keep a job, and Annie's the one who does have a job. And at some point, her mom does whine and goes to men, and Annie has to be the one to, make sense with her. But the way Charlotte and Annie will meet are very different circumstances. Not different circumstances, but very conspicuous circumstances. And through those conspicuous circumstances, they will both be led to Egypt. Because Charlotte, we hear about Charlotte's story in that, like I said, dual time, in the time before, when she was in Egypt. She was young, and when she was doing that work, and how she met her husband, and what happened to her husband. She has a daughter, and then although in current time we don't hear about the father and the daughter. But then through those conspicuous circumstances, both Annie and Charlotte, like I said, will find themselves in Egypt, and they will start investigating what happened to the stolen queen. And at the same time, it'll be a personal journey for Charlotte to basically discover what happened to her daughter. So it was interesting. I think it's a 3 out of 5 for me, simply because I feel like by the time I listened to this particular story, I had listened to King Cam's Ujumbe's post about, pharaohs, and I had this whole picture of like, African queens and black queens and all that stuff. So when I had this white author write about Egypt, I found that it was really whitewashed. Okay, and it sort of took away from my enjoyment. And on top of that, I was in a, what you might call it, in a state of mind of like just finishing reading The Slave Ship. So you could just see that I was reading this book and I was like, oh my god, like rolling my eyes and like, oh my god, like I was like, okay, Europeans, oh my god, like literally, like that Slave Ship just made it so hard for me to be non-biased and just enjoy the book for what they were, just simple stories, maybe nothing too deep. But the author at the end of the story does say that although these facts are not true, the stolen queen is based on like this particular event, at which time it happened in Egypt and how it was restored and all that stuff. She does talk about a particular group that is mentioned in the story, if they're real or not, things like that. There are some things that were kind of real. So it's 3 out of 5. Like, it's not a bad book, for people who are very much interested in mystery, a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of Egyptology. It's found in The Stolen Queen. So I would recommend for a new release. I would recommend. So 3 out of 5. And then I read, so those were the 2 books, okay, that I listened to. I feel like I even listened to another, did I? No, that was the 2 books, 6 Days in Bombay, and then The Stolen Queen. And finally, the physical books, the reason why I wanted to talk to you guys about this in the end, The Art of Loving You. It was because I'm like, I'm gonna finish the month, with a sweet romance, and it's just gonna tie in the month like with a little, palate cleanser. Yo, when I said I was crying stupidly, like snots, and like my head was, because I don't know if you guys are the type like me, but when I cry, my eyes are bulging when I'm done, and then I have a headache. The next day, like my eyes were like swollen, and I had a deep headache because of this book, y'all. I was like, what do you mean? Why? Okay, can I just read to you the synopsis so you can understand that I was led in a different direction completely. Libby and Jack are the happiest they've ever been, thanks to their dear friend, 80-year-old Sid. They've just bought their first house together, and it's the beginning of the life they've always dreamed of. But the universe has other plans for Libby and Jack, and a devastating twist of fate shatters their world. All of a sudden, life is looking very different and unlikely. Though it seems, might Sid be the one person who can help Libby and Jack move forward when what they love the most has been lost? Even just reading, I was like, okay, you guys hear that there's Libby and Jack, right? Togetherness, okay? Maybe like something tragic happens, but these two are gonna find each other. I don't want to ruin it for you guys. Just know that I cried from beginning to end. It was supposed to be a romance book. What happened? I was sobbing, you guys, and I don't know if because I was already emotionally charged, but this book broke me. And I kept thinking about hubby. I kept thinking about my husband. I kept thinking like how I wanted to tell him that I love him. He's been the best for me and no life partner. Like it was just like, what is going on? I can't, you guys. I don't want to ruin it for you, but like they bought a house like the book said, and they started their life. They were just supposed to renovate this house, and Jack goes to grab something to eat, and you get to meet Libby's sister in the book, and she's pregnant. That's another bombshell. And yeah, so the beginning of the story would tell you that it started with 4 phone calls by the time tragedy really hit. Okay. And my favorite character in this book is Sid, the old guy. He was such a dear. Like he's so loving. And that just tells you that in life, blood is not always family. Family is not always blood. You know what I mean? What can I read to you guys? I tabbed some stuff. Let me see what I can read to you for you guys. Not telling you the story. Grief is a very personal experience. We don't have to tear everything down to start building it back. I like that. Family comes in all different shapes and sizes. Wow. I didn't recall saying that, but you guys know that I just said it and I tapped it because yeah, it resonated with me. And lastly, without telling you guys the end. Oh, God, I can't. Oh, gosh, I can't. Whew, I can't. Oh. Whew. Whew, you guys. Yeah, this book right here made me emotional. And there's nothing like the slip is not even, the two things, they're complete opposite. It's just two people loving each other. Yeah, just love. It was love. You could say that maybe in a bittersweet way, it kind of gave me hope in humans. I think it's a 4 out of 5. Yeah. Ooh. Sorry. I'm hoping June is gonna be better because I think I'm done with emotional reads for once.
Emotional damage.
I think I deserve a little break from high emotions, right? So it was such a fantastic book, y'all. There's no love making of such a beautiful story. Guys, that's it. I'm done. Those are all the books I read for the month of May. And I hope you're going to pick up all these books. I hope you're going to enjoy this video. But anyways, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for giving me your time. Always, thank you to all my new subscribers. Sorry, I didn't say that at the beginning, but I see you. Thank you. Let me thank you again for your dedication to my channel. On this note, please don't forget to like, to comment, to share, and subscribe, and your notification bell. And I will see you in my next video, maybe hopefully in a happier tone. Ciao.